Absolutely. Here's a long-form exploration of your original paragraph, expanded into a 5,000-word narrative that delves into Vietnam from a comprehensive lens, touching on its political framework, future trajectory, resources, banking system, and, of course, its currency, the Vietnamese dong. For a long time, the Vietnamese dong wasn't a currency that caught much attention in the broader landscape of global finance. It quietly existed on the periphery of the minds of international investors, often overshadowed by louder currencies, more powerful economies, and more frequently discussed nations. But something is shifting, both in the global financial order and in the rhythm of Vietnam itself. There's now a persistent curiosity, an itch that won't go away. It's the kind of curiosity that grows the more one tries to ignore it, like a whisper that turns into a drumbeat. Something about Vietnam, its structure, its progress, its future, is pulling at the attention of those who are looking deeper, especially as China's political rigidity, economic dominance, and assertiveness cast long shadows across Asia. The stubbornness of China, its tightening grip over its currency and policies, has left many wondering if there's an alternative place to focus attention. That leads us, almost naturally, to Vietnam. Vietnam sits in a fascinating place in the world, both geographically and geopolitically. It's nestled in Southeast Asia, bordering China to the north and the South China Sea to the east, and its location has always given it a strategic edge. Yet what is more intriguing than its location is how it is building itself up from within. Its political framework is one of the first things that warrants examination, not because it mirrors the rigid structure of China, but because it is learning to play the same game with a different kind of finesse. Vietnam is a one-party socialist republic, led by the Communist Party of Vietnam, CPV. On paper, this resembles China's structure. But Vietnam's approach to governance, economic liberalization, and diplomacy has revealed nuanced differences that suggest a more adaptable and pragmatic leadership. The National Assembly holds legislative power, but real authority rests with the Politburo and the party's General Secretary, who is considered the most powerful figure in the country. In recent years, the country has demonstrated a quiet but determined effort to modernize and reform its political institutions, not toward Western democracy, but toward greater internal efficiency and stability. Anti-corruption campaigns have swept through the top tiers of government. These campaigns are not just symbolic gestures but have resulted in the removal of high-ranking officials, including presidents and ministers. To an outsider, it may look like political purging, but to those watching closely, it seems to signal an evolving political maturity, a realization that corruption could threaten the very fabric of its ambitious development goals. This leads us to Vietnam's future. There's a sense of momentum in Vietnam that is palpable. In cities like Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, construction cranes pierce the skyline, highways and rail systems are expanding, and foreign direct investment continues to pour in. Vietnam is becoming a hub for electronics manufacturing, textiles, and increasingly, high-tech industries. Samsung, Intel, Apple, and a host of other global giants have invested heavily in the country, drawn by a young, skilled, and relatively affordable labor force. The country has positioned itself as a viable alternative to China for manufacturing. This is not accidental. Vietnam has been extremely strategic in how it signs trade agreements, entering into deals like the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP), the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP). These deals give Vietnam access to some of the world's largest markets, often with better terms than even China enjoys. There's an unmistakable sense that Vietnam is preparing for a future where it is not just a low-end manufacturer, but a technological and economic force in its own right. To build this future, Vietnam is leveraging its natural resources as part of its strategy. As Vietnam's economy grows, so too must its banking and financial systems. This is perhaps one of the most critical and least discussed areas of transformation in the country. Vietnam's banking sector has come a long way since the economic reforms of the IME era in the late 1980s. Those reforms introduced market-oriented policies that opened the country to private enterprise and foreign investment. However, the banking system remained relatively underdeveloped for many years, plagued by high levels of non-performing loans, undercapitalized institutions, and limited transparency. But over the last decade, Vietnam has embarked on serious reform efforts. The State Bank of Vietnam, SBV, the country's central bank, has made progress in cleaning up the balance sheets of major banks, improving regulatory oversight, and pushing for digitization. Financial technology, or fintech, is booming in Vietnam. Mobile payment platforms, online banking, and digital wallets have gained traction, particularly among the young, tech-savvy population. International institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have praised Vietnam's monetary policy for being stable and disciplined, especially in times of global economic turbulence. Still, the Vietnamese dong remains a point of debate and interest. Unlike freely convertible currencies such as the US dollar, euro, or Japanese yen, the dong is tightly managed by the SBV. It's not traded on global forex markets in the same way major currencies are, and this has led many to overlook its potential. Yet its stability, even during crises, has been notable. Vietnam carefully manages the exchange rate of the dong against a basket of currencies, adjusting it when necessary to maintain export competitiveness without triggering inflation. Over time, many observers believe that as the economy becomes more integrated globally, there will be increasing pressure, and possibly intent, from Vietnam to eventually allow greater flexibility or even a gradual move toward convertibility. Such a move could open the doors for the dong to play a more significant role in regional finance, particularly as Southeast Asia continues to develop mechanisms for intra-Asian trade and monetary coordination. In fact, there are signs that Vietnam may be slowly preparing for that day. Gold markets are more tightly regulated, forex reserves are growing, and foreign investor confidence is rising. Vietnam may have once been an afterthought in discussions about global finance, but that time has passed. Today, it demands attention, not because it shouts, but because it moves. It builds, it plans, and it grows. Anyone looking for the next frontier, not just in investment, but in understanding the shifting tectonics of the global order, would do well to keep a close eye on Vietnam. For behind its reserved facade lies a rising power with a story still being written, and those who tune in early may be in the best position to read between the lines. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed, and stay ready.